Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
I know, right? At this time, we're going to go ahead and start our service. But first of all, we want to thank the Most High Aliyahu for allowing us to come out today and thank him for how he has protected us from all hurt, harm, danger seen and unseen throughout the week. He's provided us with our food, clothing, and our shelter. We thank him for just his goodness, kindness, and his mercy. We thank him for our little brother Yashra'al here. How he allowed him to go graduate from high school this year.
Yeah.
And we just thank the Most High for that, because that's not an easy task. There's so much peer pressure, so much on teenagers nowadays in school. But when you can be a stand-up student, you can be a role model, and you be an example for other young men, that's something to be thankful for. And so without any further ado, we're going to have our prayer by our brother Shalom, and we're going to turn and face, look towards Jerusalem, facing the east, as we begin to pray.
Aliyahu, I just want to come and thank you and praise your set-apart name for letting us all be wake up on Shabbat to give favor to you in your name and the things that you have done for us. Thank you for just letting us all have safe travels getting here. I thank you for keeping us through the night and through the week to make it for us to be able to be here. And I pray that you edify Moreh's words that come from you and place them upon our hearts, right on our inward hearts, that we may keep it with me, the message that he's given us. Praise your set apart name. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Without any further ado, we're going to get started on our lesson. And we are going to continue with the theme, the Lamb. And we're going to be on that for a minute, because it's all leading to Isaiah the 53rd chapter. And you probably say, well, it takes that long to get to Isaiah 53. It doesn't, but for you to have a more in-depth understanding of what's taking place, there's so much that needs to be covered so you can gain that understanding. And then you will know what Isaiah 53 is all about. And you will know that it's not Israel as the suffering servant, but it's Hamashiach Yahushua. And what we want to do today, we still want to look at something, because, you know, in my discussion, you might have put airplane mode.
Yeah, trying to get out of this now.
We had a discussion with a group of people, and there was a discussion with me and Moreh recently, and what I'm trying to get people to see is you have to be able to understand what's going on in Scripture. And it's very important that we understand and be able to look at the Scriptures pre-golden calf, or pre-sin of the golden calf, because there's so much that takes place before the sin of the golden calf that if you miss it and don't realize what's going on, you will err in your understanding or seeking understanding. That's why I always point out things like Abraham entered into covenant pre-golden calf. Abraham, we're going to read some things. You'll see what Abraham also did not have what? A Levitical priesthood. So we're going to see also this covenant that Abraham entered into, it required blood ratification. And when we look at that, I think one should ask themselves, when these meats or pieces were cut, now that was a covenant that was extended to Abraham. But Hamashiach is the one who took the death position and made himself responsible for both parties of that covenant. So now, one must go back and think, what was the promise of the covenant? What was the first thing he promised Abraham?
He would, oh yeah, but no, that he would, if he lived right, that he would actually have covenant with him, a relationship with him.
The first thing he promised him in the covenant was,
Yeah, I guess he'd make them up to the nations.
okay, like I said, right, he would make him a multitude of nations, or his seed would be what?
As many as the grain of sand and stars in the sky. And
Exactly. So now everything is based, is centered around Abraham what? Because the first thing Abraham told what? The Most High said, how would this be done, seeing that I don't what? I don't have a child, I don't have a son or seed. He promised him that his seed will be innumerable. Now, you don't find it strange now. The covenant had to be blood ratified. And that took place with the pieces of meat that were cut in twain. But you notice when he came to Abraham, what did he tell Abraham to do? He also told Abraham what? To circumcise himself. And what? His sons and the men servants of his house and their sons. Anybody he bought, they all had to be circumcised. Now, ask yourself this. When the Indians or the Native Americans, when they entered into a covenant with someone, or they were going to make a bond or a pact with someone, how did they do it? Huh?
the sacrifice.
It's in the Indian.
Yeah, Native American.
He's not.
No?
Was it by blood?
It was by blood. But how would they do it?
What did they?
Yeah.
Cut that up. Cut
No,
the
would they not cut, both parties would cut their hand
And then they shake.
and they shake,
Right, yeah.
and they were bound by blood.
Right.
Do you find it strange? Could not the Most High allow them to do the same thing? Or found some other way? But why did he choose the foreskin? Ask yourself, why do you think he chose the foreskin? If you a man, you could cut yourself anywhere and draw blood. Am I right? But why the foreskin? Circumcision was the what? the token or sign of the covenant. What were the promises of the covenant? Zerah, or seed, right? And seed being what? Offspring. Where would this come from? Wouldn't it come from that very token that's supposed to be cut, which was a token of the covenant? And this covenant is a covenant of life. So, you see a covenant that was ratified by blood. When Abraham entered into this covenant or agreed to this covenant, remember Abraham was what? Asleep or unconscious, and a dark horror fell upon him or he was in a trance or when he was asleep. Am I right? So at what point of time did he walk the pieces?
When he was asleep. When he was asleep.
Or he walked when he was sleepwalking?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Abraham?
Yeah.
But Abraham didn't walk.
He never walked the pieces.
I thought you were talking about
Hamashiach,
Hamashiach.
he walked the pieces. So he took on the death position of what?
The curses.
Of the party that broke that covenant. Remember, get Psalms 89. What is this? Psalm 89. Yeah. I thought it was Psalm 89, that verse. Let me go with the notes. Yeah, 34. Psalm 89 and 34. This is very important that we get this because you're going to see something. Brother Akiyam, you go get Psalms, Tehali 89, verse 4. Read it out.
You say 89:4?
89 verse 34, I'm sorry. Thank you. 89 verse 34.
Psalms 89, verse 34. My covenant will I not break, nor alter the thing that is gone out of my lips.
That's very important. He said, my covenant I will not break. And what was the next part?
Nor alter the thing that is gone out of my lips.
Nor alter. I'm going to say that one more time and highlight this. Nor alter the things which have gone out of my lips. So, this covenant that was passed from Abraham, he said, my covenant will I not break, nor will I alter this thing which is going out of my lips. Let's go to Genesis or Bereshit, the 26th chapter right quick. Because we're going to see something here. So we got to see something here. Remember, death was required. Circumcision was the token, or the cutting of the flesh. And that's what we need to focus on. The cutting of the flesh. The cutting of the flesh does what? This is common. So what now?
It bleeds.
It bleeds. The cutting of the flesh, it allows what? It allows blood to be released. So is it so much on the individual as far as cutting themselves, or is more importantly the blood? It's the blood. But in order to get blood, what? Flesh has to be what? Cut. Okay, now we're gonna come back to that. Go with that second reading on the start at verse 1.
Genesis 26, verse 1. And there was a famine in the land, beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto God Gerar. And Yahuwah appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven.
So I'll make that seed do what?
Multiply
Go ahead.
as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice, and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws.
Stop right there. Read that 5th verse again. I want y'all to pay very close attention to this. Because Abraham did what?
Because that Abraham obeyed my voice, and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws.
What's going on right here? Did Abraham have a Levitical priesthood?
No.
What charge, commandments, statutes, and laws would he have kept? So there would have to be another order in place if you know he didn't have a Levitical priesthood. But what is Yahuwah's focus with Isaac here? He's still focused on what? The seed? The seed. The cutting of the foreskin. That's attached to what? The covenant. That's the token. The foreskin is a reason why he could have chose anywhere for them to cut themselves or to draw blood. That's a reason why the foreskin. This is the very reason why Isaac, no matter what any Muslim or anybody says, Isaac was always going to be the chosen seed. He was always the covenant child. Even though Ishmael was the oldest, Abraham was uncircumcised when he went into Hagar. Abraham was uncircumcised when he went into Hagar. But what was his condition when he went into Sarah? He was circumcised. Circumcision is attached to what? The covenant. Just like that flesh had to be cut with those meats when Abraham entered into the covenant. Now, the token or the sign of that covenant was circumcision. So Abraham had to circumcise himself, all of his sons, and his what? Men servants. Cutting of the flesh to bring forth blood. So, when we get to the Messianic teaching of what we call the New Testament, and you hear Yashra'al say something that, like, we're circumcised through body of Hamashiach, what does that tell you? Because what did he come to do? Remember we read in Hebrews that since there was a change in what? The priesthood, that need to be what? A change in the law. What was the change in the law? No more sacrifice or no more what? Book of the law. Now the Melchizedek order is in place. Now it's the book of the covenant, which all of this with Abraham is on what? The book of the covenant. Pre-golden what? Calf. Pre-book of the law.
So,
Am I making sense with anything I'm saying?
so in Hebrews it's talking about going from the Levitical law to the Melchizedek order.
Right, he was talking about going from the Levitical law, which the Levitical order of priesthood, which came by way of the sin of the golden calf, but brought about the book of the law.
Right.
Now, since Hamashiach had came and did what? Paid the penalty or paid the price. Now we're going from one order, and he's what? Ratified and reforming the original order for his people, which is the Melchizedek order or Melchizedek priesthood. Remember, Hamashiach was not a Melchizedek priest. Don't ever get that confused. Because what did the scripture tell you? Say, had in Hebrews the 8th chapter, had he been priest here on earth? Had he been priest here on earth? But what was he here on earth? He was the Melchizedek high priest. Two differences, two different things. He's the Melchizedek high priest. So, with that being said, what is so important about this covenant? You know how we can prove that he's the son of eternity? Even when we get to Isaiah 53. This was a what kind of covenant? It's a blood covenant. And what else was it? What else was it? If Israel is the bride of Hamashiach, it had to be something else. Marriage. It's a marriage covenant. And with a marriage covenant, when we remember we talked about the ketubah and a Hebraic marriage, how there are betrothal there are betrothal cups involved. There are 4 covenants involved within Hebraic marriage. Each covenant has a betrothal cup. And remember, I was saying that for the first covenant, the second covenant, you have the friendship covenant, you have the salt covenant, you have the sandal covenant, which the first two, the groom and the bride, drinks together. The third cup, remember we discussed how the bride, she drinks by herself, but the groom doesn't drink with her, but instead the groom does what? Washes the feet of the bride, remember? And at the fourth and final cup of covenant, that's when the groom and the bride do what? They drink together again, because that they have now reached what? The marriage supper. So, let's go look at Matthew, I think it's Matthew 26. I should have wrote something down, I'm trying to remember stuff out of heart. Matthew 26. Let's go down to verse Matthew 26. Because there's a lot going on with Hamashiach. Matthew 26. Let's go down to let's start at verse 26.
Matthew 26, verse 26. And as they were eating, Yahuwah took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples and said, take it, eat, this is my body.
Stop right there. He said, as they were what? Eating.
Yahuwah took bread.
He took bread.
Yahushua took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples.
Okay. Go ahead.
And said, take, eat, this is my body.
Take, eat this, for this is what?
My body.
My body. Go ahead.
And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, drink ye all of it. For this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins.
He said he took cup and gave thanks, and he gave it to them and said, drink ye all of it, for this is what? My blood of the new what? Testament. So testament is synonymous to what? Covenant. He said, this is my blood, which was what? Was shed. So how would his blood be shed? The cutting of his flesh, from beating with the whip, with a cat of nine tails, with razor, barbed wire that rips but cuts and rips through the skin. And was he not pierced? Okay. Keep reading.
Matthew 26, verse 29.
Pay attention to verse 29.
But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine, until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom.
At the third covenant, who drinks? Thank you, Dorothy. You don't want to pay attention. The bride. Only the bride drinks. Now read that again.
But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine, until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom.
He gave it to them to drink. Now who was the them?
Disciples.
How many were there? 12. He gave to the 12 of his 12 brethren, who represent what? The 12 tribes of Israel. He gave to them to drink, because they were the representation of the whole nation. They were the bride. He gave to them to drink, and he said, henceforth I will not what? Until what? We enter my Father's kingdom. What takes place in the Father's kingdom? Marriage. And it's called the what? Marriage supper of the what? Marriage supper of the Lamb. This message is about the Lamb of Isaiah 53 of the serpent servant. So now let's keep reading on, bro.
Matthew 26, verse 30. And when they had sung a hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. Then said Yahushua unto them, All ye shall be offered offended because of me this night. For it is written, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. But after I am risen again, I will go before you into Galilee. Peter answered and said unto him, Though all men shall be offended because of thee, yet will I never be offended. Yahushua said unto him, Verily I say unto thee, that this night before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. Peter said unto him, that though I should deny with thee, yet will I not deny thee. Likewise also said all the disciples. Then cometh Yahushua, went them unto a place called Gethsemane, and said unto the disciples, Sit ye here, while I go and pray yonder. And he took him with him Peter, and the two sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then said he unto them, My soul is exceeding sorrowful, even unto death.
He said, my soul is what?
Sorrowful.
Exceeding sorrowful, even unto death.
Tarry ye here, and watch with me. And he went a little further, and fell on his face, and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt.
He said, read that verse right there one more time.
And he went a little further, and fell on his face, and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me.
Stop right there. He said, oh my Father, if it be possible, let this what?
Cup.
Cup. What kind of cup? What kind of covenant was that we entered into at Sinai? It was a blood covenant. What else? It was a marriage covenant. And remember we just talked about the a Hebraic marriage? It has 4 what? Covenants involved, 4 stages. And each covenant has what? A betrothal cup. Each covenant has a betrothal cup. He said, if it be possible, he said, let what? Let this cup be what?
Pass from me.
Be passed from me. But what else he said?
Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt.
Nevertheless, not as I will, but as what?
Thou wilt.
Thou wilt. Keep reading, and we're going to come back to that.
And he cometh unto the disciples, and findeth asleep, and saith unto Peter, What, could ye not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray, that ye enter not into the temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. He went away again the second time and prayed.
He went away again a second time. Remember, he just said, Father, if it be your will, remove this cup. He said, but nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. Go ahead.
He went away a second time and prayed, saying, O my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, thy will be done.
If this cup what?
Does not pass away from me.
Does not pass away from me.
Except I drink it.
Except I drink it.
Thy will be done.
Thy will be done. A second time he has concern about what? This cup.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Hamashiach so concerned about this cup? Because, go ahead, bro.
He didn't want to feel the pain.
He didn't want to feel the pain. He didn't want to suffer that death.
Right.
He realized his time had what? Had come, and he realized it was time for the Father's will to be fulfilled. What was the Father's will concerning his son?
He died.
He had to die. Why?
Yeah.
Why was he the sacrifice?
For the Lord of the kingdom.
Thank you so much. You're going to get an A. Because he walked the covenant. He took on the death position. He took the responsibility of both parties that were involved. When he walked the pieces, this is what he agreed to. He said, Father, don't put yourself in this situation. He knew the Father loved Israel. He said, let me do this. I'll take on the responsibility. I'll die for both parties. So now, do you have an understanding before we get to Isaiah 53 why he's the suffering servant? This is going to be real easy when we get to Isaiah 53. So, what we find out is, going back to the beginning of the lesson, when we went to Psalms 89, he said, my covenant I will not what? Break. Neither will I alter what? The words that have come out of my mouth. So, when it comes to commandments and the book of the covenant, what's one thing that cannot take place? What cannot take place with the book of the covenant? You pretty much, I mean, you're on the cusp of it. That's the foundation of it. Because, okay, well, it can be broken, but what can't happen though?
It can't be changed.
It can't be changed or altered. Nothing in the book of the covenant can be changed or altered. But when it comes to the book of the law,
It can be added. You can add to.
what can take place with the book of the law? Can there not be amendments and things to be altered or adjusted and added to? Am I right? So, you see how much important the book of the covenant is versus the book of the law? Because remember, this book of the law was supposed to be what? A schoolmaster until Yashra'al, until what? Right, until the seed of the promise, or the promised seed should come. And Hamashiach came, and he did what? Those things that were prophesied of him that he would do, or should do. Even when we just read in Matthew, what did we just read? Matthew?
Matthew,
Yeah, Matthew, okay then. How you'll find it strange that this whole scene took place where? On the Mount of Olives. Why the Mount of Olives? Remember in our previous lesson we discussed how what? A sacrifice couldn't take place where? Inside Jerusalem. The altars were outside the city. Why?
It's supposed to be a set apart.
Yes, from this set apart place. And what would happen if the blood and all was in the land? Would it not defile the land? The Mount of Olives sits outside facing the temple. Why is it facing the temple? Because what has to happen with each sacrifice or offering? It has to be done before what? Before Yahuwah. And in a sense, before up to Yahuwah, before Yahuwah. That's why the Mount of Olives is outside. As a matter of fact, that same altar, which is in the east, remember we were studying about the different degrees and how Jerusalem is strategically located in a certain place for a reason. And when Hamashiach returns, what's the geographical location the scripture tells he's going to return to?
On Palestine.
Not necessarily, but in a roundabout way, because you know the land covers all that. But specifically said what? He's going to stand on what mountain? Huh? Mount of Olives. Y'all remember that? When it really?
Yeah, because that's where
You said you doing your hands the right way.
who's this?
Did you say the mountain's supposed to split in a certain direction? One foot to be on one side, one foot to be on the other side? It's the Mount of Olives. And when Yashra'al returns to go back into the land, they strategically go into the land. Did Israel, when they went into the promised land of Canaan, and that slow-mo said Palestine, did they just get up and everybody just make their way into the land? Or did they strategically march from different directions and they went in an order? Yes, they strategically went into the land. They didn't just get up and just, everybody's time to go into the land. They strategically went into the land. It's going to be the same way. And guess how everybody's going back into the land? The same way, but through what direction? The east. And they're going to have to cross what? The Mount of Olives. And what took place at the Mount of Olives?
Is that where Moses?
Yeah, you're on the right. You're in the right direction. But what was Hamashiach crucified? He was crucified at the Mount of Olives. Remember this whole scene leading up to the crucifixion we're reading about. That's what he mentioned the Mount of Olives, and you don't find it strange he mentioned what? Gethsemane. What is Gethsemane?
You said where is or what is?
What is it?
Mount of Olives. And that whole olive garden was in the garden.
It was what?
It was in the garden.
In the garden. What did David leave Aaron's rod?
That's what I was trying to say. Aaron's rod. That's in
And
Mount of
Yeah, man, that's what he was from.
the Mount of Olives.
Right.
And it grew into what? The tree that Hamashiach was what? You see how everything come back together?
When you said Aaron's rod, so it's a tree.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Go
That was
to.
the last Shabbat we had. She wasn't here.
Remember when Absalom was pursuing David, trying to kill him, and David took the scepter, or the king's scepter. Because remember, Absalom was after the kingdom and the king's scepter. So it was at the Mount of Olives at Mount Moreh that David took the king's scepter, which was Aaron's rod, and he left it or buried it where?
In Mount of Olives.
At Mount of Olives.
Yes.
Moreh.
And the scepter.
And remember
The
when
scepter goes back to the tree of life, which was Adam's rod, which was passed down
Right.
generations.
exactly. That's why anytime you read about Aaron's rod, it never fails to mention that budded. Year after year after year, when Aaron's rod is mentioned, the next thing that follows is what? That budded. Why is it mentioning that? It's showing you that it was lively. It was the only rod out of all of the rods that the 12 tribes had that what? That bud.
Yeah.
It's for a reason. So, when we look at this, all of it, nothing just haphazardly happened. That's why what was it when they had the Ark of the Covenant and they began to reveal the findings on the inside of the covenant? you had some, remember I questioned all about it when we read it? I said, what's missing? I said, something else is supposed to be in the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh,
Well, man.
Yep, but the rod was what? It was missing. But it only came up missing after it was in David's possession. Because David buried it at Moreh on the Mount of Olives. So if you don't read this stuff, I know it seems like stuff just haphazardly just happened when you read the scripture and just, you read these stories. But I guarantee you, if you focus and pay attention to everything you read, it'll all point back to one common theme. But I know it's kind of hard to see if you haven't really studied and delved in the culture of Hebraic culture. And so that's why I'm saying it's important. We're gonna have to I think I'm gonna have to do that marriage ketubah lesson over again. And it's one of those lessons I've done so many times I really don't want to do it again. But for you guys' sake, I think it's imperative that I do it again. And it'll make sense out of a lot more, a lot of things make a lot more sense and open up your understanding. But all of this points back to the same thing. That's why when you open up this book, it starts off with a lamb. You end this book, you close it, it's about a lamb. If you want to stick in the middle, it's about a lamb. But what's so important about this lamb? Now you see why when Apostle Yashra'al comes on the scene, now it should help us to understand his message and his message even more. Because you should be able to see why his focus is so much on Abraham and the covenant of promise, or the covenants of promise, and faith. And a heavy big question about what? Transgression or breaking the law. So, what we have here, let's go look at Exodus 4 and 22.
Exodus 4, verse 22. And thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus saith Yahuwah, Yashra'al is my son, and my son, even my firstborn. And I say unto thee, let my son go, that he may serve me. And if thou refuse to let him go, behold, I will say thy son, even thy firstborn. And it came to pass by the way in the end, that Yahuwah met him and sought to kill him. Then Zipporah took a sharp stone.
Oh, so you good right now? Well, go ahead and read the last.
Then Zipporah took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin of her son and cast it at his feet and said, surely a bloody husband art thou to me.
Okay then. Surely a bloody husband thou art to me. Now, Yashra'al was a wife of who? Yahushua. So you see Yahuwah required what? Blood. But you don't find it strange that Yahuwah required blood and the book of the covenant at Sinai, what took place? When he gave them the book of the covenant at Sinai, what took place? They kill what? The bullocks and lamb, and they what? Sprinkle it on the people. But after the gold, okay, they sprinkle on the people. What else happened? Did not how many elders go up on or go up to the mountain?
7.
And what did they do when they got there?
They had a dinner.
Did they just drink or they ate and drink?
They seen him and they ate and drank.
Say that again, bro.
They seen Yahuwah and they ate and drank.
They seen who? Yahuwah. Did they see Yahuwah with the Hamashiach? Okay, they see Yahuwah. Okay, we'll stick with that for a second. And they did what? Ate and drink. So it was blood ratified. And they had a what? A covenant meal. All of this is what? Was this pre-golden calf? Or after the golden calf? This was pre-golden calf, also pre-what? Book of the law. What happened when they broke that covenant?
Someone had to die.
First of all, how did they break it?
Golden calf.
Oh, through the golden calf. I'll just a little trick. Just make sure y'all with me. Okay, through the golden calf. And through the golden calf came what? What sprung out of that one act?
The law.
The building of the golden calf. The Levitical priesthood, and what also? What came through the Levitical priesthood, or what the Levitical priesthood?
Sacrifice.
Well, they had sacrifice. What did they have? What did not they have? What did they not have before the golden calf?
High priest.
Yeah.
They didn't have a priesthood, nor did they have what? Book of the what?
The law.
The book of the law.
That's what I said earlier.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
Well, I didn't hear you. Did you say that, Cote?
I said
See,
the law.
she sitting right there beside you now.
I said the law.
So when you say the book of the law, you saying book of the Torah?
Well, both of them were Torah.
The covenant and the law?
Mm-hmm. Because remember when, what did he tell Moses to do before he was getting ready to be separated from Israel? He told him to take the book of the covenant and do what with it?
Inside of the ark.
Put it, what? On the side of the ark. And what did he tell him to do with the book of the law?
Inside.
Put it inside the ark. But he said let the book of the covenant be there to be what? A witness against Israel.
So let me ask you a question, because one of the discussions that we were having before was that first came the 10 Commandments,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that was actually taking place before, at the same time that these people were breaking the covenant.
Right.
Because Moses came down with the 10 Commandments, and he, I guess, did he throw it at the calf, or he broke the tablets?
Right.
That was just the 10, right?
Right.
So after that, then the law came, which was, I guess, as they went through the other
Right.
613 or whatever it was. So I think what Jonathan was saying before was that there was more than just 10 at that time.
Well, there was more, no, there were 10 commandments.
There were more commandments than just the 10 that Jonathan was saying, right, Jonathan?
No, there were 10 commandments.
Right.
Remember we read earlier? What did it say Abraham did? Oh, he kept my what? My commandments, my charge, and my what? Torah? Which it says law in our book. That's what I'm saying. That's what one reason I point out. I was showing you that commandments can't be altered or changed. But laws, statutes, they can.
Right.
To show that that there's a difference between a commandment, a law, a statute, and a judgment. So, going back to what you were saying about, okay, the law or the book of the law came by sin, the sin of the golden calf. So, I got $1,000 for anybody that can show me at any time in this book what the book of the law was, blood ratified, and there was a covenant meal between Yahuwah and the people.
$1,000.
Say it again.
I got $1,000 for anybody who can show me in scripture where the book of the law, which came after the golden calf, was blood ratified and a covenant meal took place.
Okay, let's go to Exodus 20.
Now, you know you're going to give me $1,000 if you're wrong.
No, you didn't say that. You didn't say that. You said you had $1,000 for. You said it was a
Yeah, to the Lord. He had to the Lord.
Oh. Laws about the elder. Lord said unto Moses, thou shalt not say unto Israel. I'm doing this for a reason.
So you just want to give me some money?
I should give money unto the people. Fear not, for God is going through. Thou shalt not kill. 17, thou shalt not covet. Number 18, and all the people saw the thunder and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet in the mountain. In the mountain, smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. And they said unto Moses, Speak thou with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die. 2020. And Moses said unto the people, Fear not, for Yahuwah is come to prove you, and that his fear may be before your faces, ye sin not. The people stood afar off, and Moses drew near unto the thick darkness where Yahuwah was.
I'll tell you what, you keep reading, read silently, and we're going to be moving on, but you're not going to find that.
No, I just want to finish.
And it's going to cause me to sit here quiet while people...
Couple seconds. Okay. And Yahuwah said unto Moses, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Yashra'al, ye have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. Okay, ye shall not make with me God the silver, neither stone. Okay, so now it goes into where he's given more commandments. Right?
That's still at the same time period. You still don't have a Levitical order yet?
And thou make for me an altar, right? So you said there's still not a Levitical order. I mean, you said this is still part of the 10.
What book you reading in?
This is Exodus 2024 now.
What books come after Exodus?
Leviticus.
You think that's for a reason?
No, what I'm saying is this, is that these extra commandments right here, is this part of, or is this part of the 10?
They're not part of the 10, the commandments.
Because he's talking about the altar, how to deal with the altar, and that they shouldn't go
Right.
up under.
Right.
So-
but you know in the 10, it tells you that should not have no what?
Well, yeah, I know there's kind of before you. But right
So
here,
with
he's
that-
instructing them how to make the altar.
So, okay, but let me
Is
say,
that a commandment or is it not? Is what I'm asking.
it's a statute. Let me tell you something. If he said, thou shalt not have no other Elohim before me,
Right.
it's one thing to say it. He has to give you a description of what he said. So he's going to explain to you about graven images and everything. If he said thou shalt not kill, guess what? You can go to the statutes and see exactly what he means. Somebody said, well, Cain killed Abel, but you notice Cain wasn't put to death? Why? But does not the law say if you put a man to death, you kill him?
No, before the law. Cain was.
Yeah, but even after the law. That's why I say if you look at the word kill, it does not mean the same thing in every verse you read. This is what we had the city of refuge. If I killed a brother, I was allowed to go to a city of refuge and stay there until the high priest died. Once he died, I had to do what? Return back to the land that I fled from, where everything took place. What that does is, it gives the family of that victim or whoever time to what? Calm down, simmer down, and it allows everything to just mellow out. Once I return, then I'm on trial and there's a judgment. So, but what does the law say? What are the statutes concerning that law that said what? Thou shalt not kill.
Right. But that's what they think if it was an accident.
But still
If it
killing.
was if you look at the issue with Cain and Abel, Cain killed Abel in cold blood. I mean,
It was an accident.
No, he hit him in the head with a rock, didn't
Yeah, but not out of anger, not because, see, when it says thou shalt not kill, when you know, the only time when you read the scripture when it said, well, death is required you kill somebody, if you kill that person out of a hatred towards him. That was the whole purpose of the city of refuge.
So what was the situation between Cain and Abel? If it wasn't out of hatred, or it wasn't
No,
out of
he didn't hate his brother. They got to fight and he hit him and he died. It wasn't because he hated his brother. You know, you never seen brothers fight before. A brother got killed accidentally, because you can punch a person and hit him in the nose the wrong way and kill him. That don't mean you hated that person. You hit that person and you injured them, they die from the result of that punch or injury. You never punch a person in a fight with the intention of killing them. Am I right? I hope not. So, this is why you have statutes, and this is what a lot of times people get statutes mixed up with laws. It's one thing for me to say don't do this, but the statutes show and explain and go in depth and give you a description of what I'm saying. Then, once those things are broken, then what comes behind that? The judgment. And this is when Yahuwah is talking a lot of times. We try to compile everything together, and we don't know why. You only have 10 times when he said, well, even with all the other stuff written, when he said, thou shalt not, those are to be distinguished from the other stuff. Because that's what was in the covenant. He still had other laws or instructions, but the covenant itself was those 10. I had somewhere I was going for you. Ask that question.
I'm sorry, but it was brought up, and so I figured that we needed to talk about it.
Oh yeah, I was saying, not anywhere at any time in Scripture where you find that the book of the law was ever blood ratified or there was a covenant meal with Yahuwah and the people. And so when we get to Hebrew, which we're going to touch again, when it reads that since there was a change in the priesthood, that needed to be what? Or a change in the law. What would need to be changed with the law?
No more Levitical priesthood.
And not any time on earth has it ever been where a high priest or a priest have been able to hold the same, simultaneously hold the position of king. But what is it about this order, or the Melchizedek order? You know, he doesn't say you should be a nation of priests. Why would he say a kingdom of priests?
So what, did he say kingdom of priests?
Yeah, why would he say a kingdom of priests? Because remember, Hamashiach holds what? The position as King of Kings and the High Priest at the same time. That was only done one other time in Scripture, and because it can't be done because of what the law said, guess what?
The law had to be done.
That person suffered. They died because of it. You can't do it.
Who did that happen? Who did that happen?
I forget the name. I text Moreh to talk about real quick. He can give you the name. You know, my mind's short. My memory's short. I can't remember it all. And see, all of this is going to take us somewhere. I'm going to go back and touch and go a little more in depth with Apostle Shaul and probably James as well. And we're going to touch on the circumcision and to show how the cutting of Hamashiach's flesh and the shedding of his blood fulfill that of the cutting of the flesh through circumcision. Now it's about circumcision of the heart.
It's not about answering, say Uzziah.
Huh?
Uzziah.
Yeah, it was Uzziah, that's right. You know, the church, they said Uzziah. Thanks, Moreh.
You said Uzziah
Uzziah.
or Uzziah?
Or the Christian church said King Uzziah. But at this moment, I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. And we're going to pick this up next week. And we're going to touch on the circumcision a little more. So at this time, we are going to stand to our feet. We're going to turn and look towards Jerusalem, facing the east. And our key, Yehonatan, is going to pray us out.
Lord, I thank you for the second part day. Thank you for all us together in this second part of the giving us wisdom and instructions to revere you, to love you, to know you in all that we do. I could work right to you, son. I don't know how to show Mashiach. We do all things that please you throughout our week. We remember you in our hearts. May we meditate upon your scriptures, your Torah. Thank you for your goodness. Never take upon your greatness and remember that we are small and that we are humble creatures in your transitory world. That you are the great, you are eternal. Give you all glory, honor, and esteem, and praise forever and ever. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.